So today's World Ayurveda Day. To understand what Ayurveda is and to also understand where are we going with the business of Ayurveda, we could not have had someone better than Shri Vaidya Manoj Nesri ji. He's an advisor to the Ministry of Ayush with the Government of India. He's a PhD in Ayurveda, but then he also topped UPSC, did his research in the policy making to drive Ayurveda, and today he's the advisor to the Ministry of Ayush. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Namaskar.
Dr. Nesri, my first question to you is, what is the science behind Ayurveda and what are its key components for the understanding of the general masses?
First of all, I would like to tell you that the science has a very limited role. When we say science, it has a very limited role to play, and Ayurveda is the knowledge of life. And knowledge is very vast. Each and every knowledge cannot be measured in the so-called parameters of science. But even then, there are many fundamental principles of Ayurveda which we can say that now the present available science to somewhat is able to validate the principles of Ayurveda. Say for example, the Prakriti is the concept of Ayurveda. So Prakriti is the body constitution. There is another aspect of Prakriti, it is the mental constitution. But the body constitution, so that Ayurveda has believed for many thousand years, because the documented period of Charak Samhita, you can say it is around 5,000 years. But then Ayurveda even existed before that. So since then, Ayurveda says that every person has a unique Prakriti and every person is unique one. So no two persons, they are equal. And only after this knowledge of genome, we accepted that no two persons are same. So before that, even the modern science, they believed that all people, they are same, but it is not. So once the genome parameter actually came, and then actually we conducted the research with the help of the genome on the Prakriti, and we found that when we say the Vata Prakriti, there are certain types of genomes which are actually dominant in them. There are certain types of genome which are dominant in the Pitta Prakriti. So this is one actually principle of Prakriti which we can say that it is very true on the present available knowledge of the genomics. At the same time, now the various new theories like the proteomics and the other omics, they are coming, and gradually as the knowledge of science will improve, so similarly the people, they can understand the basic principle, the fundamental principles of Ayurveda on the parameters of science. The another concept I would like to say, it is about the gut microbiome. So now actually we realize that yes, gut microbiome is something there are certain type of bacteria which are much more than the number of bacteria which are the number of the cells in our body, and these bacteria, they are really very essential for our body. But this actually concept was said in Ayurveda for last thousands of years. So that's why I said that the more actually we understand about the science, the knowledge of science, the more we'll understand the more and more principles of Ayurveda as well.
So you were talking, in fact, just before this interview started, we were talking about the meaning of Ayurveda and how you explained that it's a science of life. Can you explain that for our audience?
Yes, sure. As I mentioned just now, that the science of life is very limited. Science of life means, to certain extent that why there is a male and why there is female. But even today, nobody is able to tell in every species, whether it is a cat, dog, lion, any kind of bird, or even in the human being, how the nature is maintaining the balance of both the genders, the male and female. Nobody knows that. So that has been actually done by the nature. We only know that there is a X chromosome and a Y chromosome. So that's why I said the knowledge of science is very limited. It is much more beyond that. So knowledge is much more beyond that. The science is very limited. So one side is science, and it is not actually refuting the importance of science. We know that the science is very important, but at the same time, if today we are not able to justify it or to understand it, that doesn't mean that the knowledge which has been mentioned, it is probably irrelevant. It doesn't mean that. So Ayurveda is the knowledge of life, and when we say life, so life is not just the medicine, life is not just the health, but life is much more beyond that. Because the whatever the functions we do in our day-to-day life, so that is also a part of life. The enjoyment that we have, so that is also a part of life. The spirituality that we do, that is also a part of life. The chanting and other things that we do, satsanga we do, so that everything is life. So life is much more actually beyond the health. Even when you actually go and you enjoy the music or you enjoy the nature and the trees and other things, so that kind of joy which you get inside, so that joy that cannot be measured in terms of some parameters.
Right.
The happiness of your mind, it cannot be measured. Though actually we use the word wellness, even in the sustainable development goal number 3, it is said that health and wellness. But how to define the wellness, how to actually measure it, those parameters, they are not there in the science.
Right.
So that's why I said that Ayurveda is much more beyond that. Science is definitely there, but then it is not only limited to science, it is much beyond that.
Got it. Got it. Now, sir, what is the Ayurvedic viewpoint of structure and the functions of a human body?
Excellent question. Why excellent question? Because Ayurveda has given more importance to the function of the body. And this, all the orthopedic doctors especially, they can very well appreciate this, because we can say, for example, the commonest complaint is low back pain. And in the low back pain, you can see the spine is totally degenerated. And despite of degeneration in the spine, what you see in the structure, in the X-ray or in the CT scan, maybe the intensity of pain what the person is getting, it is not much.
Right.
But at the same time, another person came and with a lot of severe back pain, this, that. And when you see the X-ray or you see the CT scan, you will find that there is some protrusion in the disc, but it is not very relevant to the pain. So here, there is difference in between what actually the deformity you get in the CT scan or in the X-ray and what are the symptoms. So there is difference between the structure and functions. But at the same time, the structure is also important. There are gross things, they are there, and the grossly they should be in the limits. So Ayurveda has given the parameters for that, because only having the small frame, mid frame and large frame and dividing the entire population in these 3 frames, so probably it is not relevant. So Ayurveda has given the measurement of Anguli Parinam. So Anguli Pariman means, Anguli means this is the width.
Right.
So this is 1 Anguli. So this is the 4 Anguli. So this Pariman is there, and then Ayurveda has mentioned, especially Sushruta Samhita, that what should be the length of your nose, what should be the width of your forehead, so what should be the length of your arms and this and that. So all these measurements they are given. So this is the structure. So the structure is definitely there, but at the same time, the functions, they are more important.
Right.
So there is certain kind of importance of the structure, they are there, but at the same time, when you understand the physiology, when you understand the health, when you understand the disease process, so that every time is not linked directly to the structure.
Got it. Got it. We were talking of Ayurveda and its philosophy. Now, what is the key philosophy of Ayurveda related to health, to disease and treatment?
The important factor is that Ayurveda says that it is not just the disease and the health. It is much more beyond that. So dharma, artha, kama, moksha, these are the 4 things. So dharma is not religion. Ayurveda doesn't talk anything about religion. So that's why Ayurveda is not limited to any particular sect or religion. It is for the entire living being, not even for the human being. It is for the entire living being, whether they are the animals, whether they are the plants, for everything. And that's why there are Vriksha Ayurveda is also there. Vriksha Ayurveda is the Ayurveda for the plants,
Trees.
for the trees. That is called as Vriksha Ayurveda. Ashwa Ayurveda, the Ayurveda for horses. Hasti Ayurveda, the Ayurveda for the elephant. Go Ayurveda, the Ayurveda for the cows.
Okay.
So likewise, there are different branches of Ayurveda there, and one of that is the current Ayurveda. What we understand is for the human being. So I was talking about the Dharma, Artha, Kam, Moksha, which is for the everybody. So Dharma is whatever the functions that we do, which we are supposed to do in our life, which are our duties. So that is Dharma. Artha we know, that is basically the finance, the material things, whatever the kind of senses that we have. The Kama is different kind of pleasures that we have, whether we listen to the music or we draw the painting or we dance and other things. So these are the Kama, and Moksha is the emancipation. So for all these basic things, four things, the important thing is the Arogya, your health.
Right.
And this health, so for this health, your physical body, your mind, your sense organs, as well as your spirit, the soul. So all should be healthy.
Right.
So then it is called as health. So the Sushruta says that samadoshaha samagnischa samadhatu malakriya. So that means all the physiological processes in your body. So if they are absolutely in the balance, if they are in a good state of equilibrium, if your Agni, the digestive capacity, if your appetite, if it is normal, it is absolutely in balance. If your sense organs, if your mind, if that is prasanna, so it says that prasanna atma indriya manaha. So it should be in the state of bliss.
Right.
So getting the state of bliss is very important. So prasanna atma indriya manaha. So it is not only your mind but your soul as well.
Right.
Then we can say that the person is swastha. So this is actually definition of health.
Got it. Got it. When we look at Ayurveda and how we understand it, we know it's an ancient, and I won't even call it a science now because, thanks to you, now I understand that it's much beyond what we can understand or what science can explain. But what is the relationship of Ayurveda and the ancient traditions that we have known?
Ayurveda is also one of the ancient knowledge system, I would say. Instead of using the word science, I would use the word knowledge system.
Right.
Because, say for example, language, Sanskrit is a language, or English is a language, or Latin is a language. So every language also has lot of actually science into it, lot of knowledge into it. So whether it is knowledge, because usually it is said that knowledge is a branch of arts.
Correct.
So it is not science, but it is not that. So that's what the National Education Policy 2020 says, that there cannot be separate branches. In every aspect there is science. Every aspect there is knowledge, and the knowledge is way beyond science.
Right.
So the ancient traditions. So in various ancient traditions, when we say, it is not actually the tradition, but I would say that these are knowledge systems. Say for example the Veda or the Upanishad. So Veda and Upanishad, they are the written or the codified, the most ancient literature which is available today.
Got it.
And we actually believe that whatever the traditions are there, they have actually come out of those knowledge systems. And these knowledge systems, they are basically, or rather Ayurveda is part of these knowledge systems. And that's why you will find that there are many similarities in between Atharvaveda and Ayurveda, Rigveda and Ayurveda. There are many examples or the similar kind of examples which are there in Upanishad. The same kind of things you can find in Ayurveda as well. Even the Bhagavad Gita. Some people say that Bhagavad Gita is the religious text. Bhagavad Gita is not the religious text. Bhagavad Gita is the philosophy philosophy of life,
Life.
and that philosophy of life is applicable to every individual. So Bhagavad Gita, it is said that aham vaishvanaro bhutva praninam deham ashritaha pranapana samayuktam pachami annam chaturvidham. So here the Lord Krishna, he tells Arjuna that I am the Vaishvanar Agni, and being the Vaishvanar Agni, I stay in the body of every living being, not only human being, every living being, and I digest the four kind of food that every living being takes.
Mm-hmm.
So when he said that, the same thing is there in Charak Samhita as well. So you will find the linkages of Ayurveda in all these various ancient available knowledge system, to the extent that even the Sanskrit grammar, the Panini is the Panini Vyakaran, so it is the known text which is there, and you will find that many these sutras which are there in the Panini, so the Charak Samhita, the way actually written, it is based on the Panini Vyakaran, and that's why it is said that how you should read the Ayurveda or how you should read the Samhita. So it is not by the whole sentence, but even a part of sentence, the word by word. So it says that you should actually read by word, you should analyze part of sentence, the full sentence, and a full stanza.
Got
So this is the way actually you have to read it, and the same way is there to read the Veda also. The same method is there to read the Upanishad also. So there is right from studying, understanding, up to the knowledge which is actually percolated into it.
Mm-hmm.
So there is lot of similarity and lot of linkages in between the ancient knowledge system, or you can say the tradition, and Ayurveda.
Got it. Sir, when we look at Ayurveda from the context of today's world, as we understand, we always relate it to healthcare, well-being, wellness. And one of the most critical aspects of wellness is to understand the problem, which means the diagnosis. Now, when we're looking at the ancient times, how did the diagnosis happen at that time? And how is the Ayurveda diagnosis very different from the modern medicine as we understand today?
Good. Actually, before actually coming to main your question, first let me actually explain you what Ayurveda is in a very nutshell. So Ayurveda is the database of three main things.
Mm-hmm.
The database is not only nowadays in the days of computer, but Ayurveda
Right.
also talk about the database.
Right.
So Ayurveda says that the Hetu is one database. Hetu means all the causative factors.
Mm-hmm.
So if you consider that the various causative factors or the various epigenetic factors which are say today's, so all the various causative factors, that is one data, that is called as Hetu.
Mm-hmm.
All the various symptoms, whether it is pain, different kind of pain, because pain is not only one. So whether it is pricking pain, throbbing pain, thrashing pain, there are different kind of pains.
Yes.
So whether it is pain, burning, this, that, giddiness, hundreds and thousands and millions of symptoms are there. So all these symptoms, that is another database, that is called as Lakshana. And the third database is Chikitsa or the Aushadha.
Right.
So how to treat that? So these are the three databases, and these three databases together, it is actually the in short the Ayurveda, you can say.
Got it.
Now coming to your main point, how you diagnose it. So for the diagnosis, Ayurveda says that there are two basically things that you have to examine. One is the rogi, another is the rog.
Mm-hmm.
So it is not just the disease that actually you have to diagnose, but at the same time you have to also assess the patient.
Patient.
So the patient is the first thing that you have to actually examine, you have to assess, and then you have to also examine the disease. The two things that you have to examine.
Right.
And then there are special methods which have been actually described in the text and which are practiced, that how actually a person is to be analyzed, how the person is to be assessed, and how the disease is to be assessed. So while diagnosing the disease, so there are the physician has to understand that what are the various causative factors,
Mm-hmm.
because depending upon the causative factor, the treatment may change.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to identify the causative factors. You have to identify the various symptoms, and the symptoms, they could be confusing because one symptom may appear in 10 different diseases.
Right.
So you have to take a holistic picture of that. So that is another thing. The third is that you have to actually try to analyze how the pathogenesis must have been actually gone in your body.
Mhm.
So that you have to try to analyze from the various questions that you ask to the individual, or when you examine and you see the person, so you have to analyze what could be the pathogen that might have been there. So it is a holistic approach.
Mhm.
Let me further give a clarification that what is mean by the holistic approach. Say for example, if somebody is having headache, so headache, it could be because of the local reasons. Maybe there could be a rise in the intracranial pressure or something. Maybe it could be because of the hypertension and other things. But at the same time, it may also be possible that probably your digestion is also disturbed, or you
Right.
might be having severely constipated.
Right.
Now the people, they may think that what is the relation of constipation with the headache?
Right.
But then it may be and it may not be.
Mhm.
So you have to actually understand the whole person in one context. And it is not only that the disease which is at present, but then you have to understand what had been the presentation in the past. Because
Got it.
say for example, the doshas are there, Vat, Pitta, Kapha.
Mhm.
Now these dosha, they actually are vitiated, they are aggravated, and wherever they go and they vitiate, so they may create different kind of symptoms.
Mhm.
So you have to analyze what were the symptoms in the past disease, what are the symptoms in this disease, whether these two things they are related or they are not related.
Got it.
So that's why this is called as the holistic thing. In a simple language, I would say that suppose you are getting some seepage in your home at some place, not necessary that the water must be above that.
Right.
The source of water could be somewhere else, but the seepage could be seen somewhere else.
Yes.
And this has been commonly seen.
Yes.
The same is there in the body, that the pathology could be somewhere else and the symptoms are seen somewhere else. So that's why this holistic approach has to be there, and that's why Ayurveda has given this very scientific method of examination, that how you should analyze the person and how you should analyze the disease.
Got it. So, as they say that, don't just focus on the symptom, find the reason
Right.
why this symptom appeared,
Yes.
right? Acceptance of a certain form of, I won't even call it medicine, of a lifestyle uh, by people has always been a challenge, because people want to have it validated and the science behind it, etc. But do you think that pandemic, howsoever sad it was, but it has actually made a difference to the acceptance of Ayurveda, because people have understood the importance of immunity, etc.? Has it benefited to the acceptance of Ayurveda?
Yes, certainly. I would say that the pandemic actually has created opportunities to think people beyond their traditional frame of understanding, because there are limitations to the science. Even today, we are not very sure that the particular vaccine which is there, whether it will work or not. But then by and large, it was thought that probably it will work, and then there was no much time. So all the countries, they actually started giving the vaccination. But even that also took at least 7 to 8 months to come with the first batch of the vaccine. And these 7 8 months, they were very crucial. At that time, the entire world had nothing to deal with the COVID. And this is the thing actually where the Ministry of Ayush, we thought that because Ayurveda has given the concept of Vyadik Shamatva. So Vyadik Shamatva is the concept given by the Ayurveda, and Vyadik Shamatva, it is your capacity to fight with the disease. It is not just the immunity, because when we talk the word immunity, so people, they think of the vaccination. So vaccination is one part of the immunity, but the other part of the immunity is how actually you behave, how actually you eat, and there are various mechanisms to build up your body resistance. So this is the immunity. So the Minister of Ayush came with the certain guidelines and very small formulas which are very easy to prepare, and the entire world followed. And not only that, after that actually we also did the various clinical trials, various preclinical studies, the public health studies, and then after that even the molecular studies as well. And we proved that these guidelines, these medicines that what the ministry actually recommended, so these have the scientific actually validation for that, and that actually has created a lot of awareness in the community, not only in India but even abroad also.
Right.
Because that time we actually developed the guidelines, and the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, so he actually promoted it. He first time actually spoke for 4 minutes on the Ayush guidelines for the Ayurveda in his Man Ki Baat, and after
Right.
that it went absolutely viral, and then there was a lot of demand even from the various countries. And so we translated these guidelines in 8 different international languages: Russian and Chinese and Arabic, Japanese, French, Portuguese, German, Spanish. So all these languages we translated, and through the Indian missions we actually circulated all over the world. And later on we got the feedback from many people from the different countries, even from Brazil, that how actually it got very popular, and how the people they actually utilized it, that the to the extent that the Ayush Kwath was not available to many people, but then we had actually designed in a way that you can actually prepare the Ayush Kwath at your home. So this way, so it is one actually example that the immunity, but then beyond the immunity, whether it is Chyawanprash, whether it is the Tinospora cordifolia or the Giloy, whether they are the different other formulations, whether it is the Anutel. So different aspects of Ayurveda, whether these are the formulations, whether they are the nutrition concepts, whether they are the other health concepts. So all these concepts they were actually promoted, and the people they got much more aware of it. So awareness definitely increased. The state governments all over the states, they proactively promoted this, and because of that there was the availability of the various material to the people. It was distributed free of cost to most of the by most of the states. So this has definitely given a lot of awareness about Ayurveda. At the same time, when the people they were sitting at home because of the lockdown, that also actually allowed people to think out of the box, and to have a holistic thinking, that where actually we are running, what is actually good for our health, what is actually required for life, not only for the health but for the life. And that has actually created a lot of difference, I would say.
So, but how is the industry performing? Because if I see the growth that has happened, we've seen a very steep growth in the business. I think we have already touched $18 billion
Yes.
of the industry size, and we are poised to grow much faster and probably touch about $20 billion as what is estimated this year.
Yes.
So, what is driving this growth other than the acceptance?
Acceptance is one part which is very important, but at the same time the various regulatory initiatives that the ministry has undertaken, and the international cooperation. So both these things are very important. When we say the regulatory initiatives, the first is the quality assurance, because the acceptance may be there, but if suppose the people they are not actually assured about the quality, then it may not sustain. So it will only one peak will come and it will go, it will die down. So first of all there has to be the quality assurance. So the ministry focused very emphatically on the quality assurance of the various products, whether they are the medicines, whether they are the other health products. So the quality assurance is one of the most important thing. The second is research. So ministry issued the guidelines, and ministry actually issued a notification. So we facilitated the community participation in the research. Research is not to be done only by the government, it can be done by anybody. You have to facilitate them. So we facilitated and we encourage the people to do the research on that, and the research is not only the responsibility of the Ministry of Ayush as far as the Ayush is concerned, but I would say that it is whether it is the Department of Science and Technology, whether the Department of Biotechnology, whether there are the other different branches of science are there. So all, whether it is pharmaceuticals, so everybody would actually need to do the research. So research is another thing. The CSIR, Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, so they actually joined hand with the Ministry of Ayush, and we collaborated and we did a lot of research. The Department of Biotechnology joined hands with the Ministry of Ayush. So the various ministries under the Government of India, so we joined hand. And not only that, even the international partners. So we established collaborations with the Germany, we established collaboration with the US, we established collaboration with the Brazil, we established collaboration with Japan. So the top-notch organizations in these various countries, they now actually also have joined the hands with the Ministry of Ayush, and all, even the London, UK. So they are also there. So the various kind of research that even WHO CRO. So WHO has also come forward, and that we have joined the hands. So these developments at the domestic level, at the same time international level for the research, so that have given more not only the belief, but I would say the confidence in Ayurveda in the domestic community as well as the international community. The third is the insurance regulation. Now the various Ayurveda treatment, so they are provided the insurance coverage. So that was lacking some time back, but because of the strong backing of our honorable minister, Mr. Sonowal, and before that Shri Naik, and obviously the strong backing and the guidance given by the honorable Prime Minister, the various insurance companies, so they have come forward. Now there are around 140 different packages which are available, which are providing the insurance coverage. So that is the fourth thing. The raw material is important factor. So the National Medicinal Plant Board is working on that, and we actually made available the various raw material, the quality raw material to manufacture the medicines. That is important thing. The government has taken the lead in doing the ease of business. So ease of business is one of the important factor, and the honorable Commerce Minister, he had taken minimum 2 meetings during the COVID time with the industry to actually facilitate them to do the business. And because of that, the Ayurveda industry now, that was actually notified by the Home Ministry as a part of essential services.
Right.
So because of that, they were permitted to operate, they were permitted to function. So likewise, various initiatives the government actually did take at the domestic level, whether it is Ministry of Ayush, whether it is Ministry of Health, Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Commerce, so different ministries, and at the international level, the Ministry of External Affairs and the Prime Minister, they had taken enormous initiatives, and because of that, now the Ayurveda has been recognized as a system of medicine legally in more than 50 countries in different part of the world. And there are many more countries where the Ayurveda is formally practiced. They have actually defined their national policies. In the national policies, Ayurveda has been now recognized. Say for example, Brazil actually has made their national policy. In the national policy, Ayurveda has been included. Now these various countries, they have signed the memorandum of understanding with the Ministry of Ayush for the country to country cooperation. At the same time, we are having academic collaboration. Recently, we signed the academic collaboration in between AIST of Japan and the All India Institute of Ayurveda. So, AIST Japan is the very large research body like CSIR of India. So, the Japan and the India, they have signed the collaboration. So, likewise, the University of Rio de Janeiro and the University of Federal University of Sao Paulo, they have signed the MOU with All India Institute of Ayurveda. There are organizations from the Philippines and Indonesia, those who have signed the MOU for the academic collaboration with the National Institute of Ayurveda, Jaipur. The various SCO countries, they have become now very much interested in Ayurveda. There is a lot of acceptance in SCO countries. So,
Right.
at the international level, and the most importantly, the EU. So, the Minister of Ayush and the European Union, so we have signed the MOU, and the European Union agreed to establish a technical working group on Ayurveda. So this is a very important development when actually we are talking about the regulations and the science. So these various initiatives in the various FTA, that is the free trade agreement. Now Ayurveda is also the part of the free trade agreement.
Right.
So the SEPA, CEPA. So there also the Ayurveda is the part of that. So that's why I said that it is the whole government approach, whether it is Ministry of Commerce, the Department of Pharmaceuticals, and obviously the Ministry of External Affairs. So we are working together, and because of that, this tremendous growth now, what we are saying, it is the outcome of that.
Right. Sir, we are living in a contemporary world, and we have probably got the world's largest young population. How do we explain Ayurveda and the traditional forms of life sciences, if I can term it, to them so that they understand and imbibe it as a part of their life?
First of all, the Ayurveda food which is actually mentioned in the various ancient texts, it is absolutely yummy. So there is a lot of acceptance to that, and we did some examples for that, some experiments, and the young students, those who are studying Ayurveda, and initially they thought that the traditional food which is being mentioned in the various texts, probably it may not be very tasty, but when actually we really prepared and when we served to them, and then they thought, oh, it is too yummy. So this is the way actually you have to demonstrate them that how actually the tasty it is. Ayurveda doesn't mean that it is lack of taste. Ayurveda is absolutely tasty. As I mentioned, Ayurveda is the knowledge of life. It is not limited to the certain kind of only vegetables. There are total 3,900 different plant species they are available in India, and these are edible species I am saying.
Right.
There are many more actually plant species they are available, but out of these 3,900 plant species they are available, and all these are edible, and these are very tasty. The more actually we educate to our youth that what they should eat and how actually it is tasty, how you can prepare tasty, the more acceptance they will get. So there is a lot of diversity is there in the traditional food, and the more and more traditional food is now getting available through the various platforms like Amazon and food cart and this and that,
Right.
Swiggy and many more things. So the more actually it will be acceptable. So food is the one of the most important thing that the student they are getting, the youth they are getting attracted to it. As a part of it, we also got notified one regulation as Ayurveda Ahara. So the FSSI they brought in this, they notified this as Ayurveda Ahara, the regulation, so that these various food recipes which are there only in the text, now they will be available in the market as well, and which will be available at your doorstep. This is the second thing. The third is when we talk about Ayurveda is there is a lot of sports are there, and people, the student, they actually are very interested in the sports activity. So Ayurveda can be sports as well. Ayurveda is again the various kind of natural activities, whether it is a hiking, trekking, so all dancing. So all these are Ayurveda. So there are various activities and which are the youth is getting attracted to Ayurveda. At the same time, if we talk about the business, because when the student they are learning, so there are lot many openings and job opportunities are there where actually the student they can get and they can earn quite good money, and they can have a good lifestyle with the help of Ayurveda, and that's why the student they are getting more and more attracted.
Sir, what is your view on the integrated form of medicine? We know we are living in a world where we are more moving towards a personalized medication, and like you said, each body is different, and there are certain areas in which Ayurveda works better than the modern form of medicine, or vice versa. So do you think that Ayurveda or the Ayurveda practitioners are open to integrated treatment approach for the patients?
In fact, I would say that Ayurveda itself is an integrated science. How Ayurveda is an integrated science? Because every time, because Ayurveda actually goes in thousands of years of the history, and in these thousands of years, every time there were different applications. There are two aspects in Ayurveda. One is the principles, one is the application. So applications means the various kind of medicine, drugs, these, that, the various dietary systems. So during the course of period, they were changing from time to time. So say for example, during the Charak Samhita, maybe some 5,000 years ago, the use of the various metals and minerals, they were not there, or they were any very small part. Then gradually when the Rasa Shastra, it came into existence, and the various minerals and metals and other things they came. So Ayurveda incorporated that. So it is not there in the Charak Samhita. At the same time, there are many medicinal plants which are there, which are used in Ayurveda, which are not in the Charak Samhita, but they are there in the other text, and now the Vaidya they are using it. Even the different philosophies. So even Ayurveda also adopted the different philosophies. So Ayurveda is a very open system, I would say. It actually adopts whatever is good. So this is one part of the integration. But the way in the context actually you talk about the integration with the Western medicine, so that is, there are also the lot of strengths are there. The Ministry of Ayush formally and as I individual, so there is no actually debate on that. There are benefits in Western medicine, there are benefits in the Ayurveda, and there is a lot of scope for the integration. Some of the examples we have already set in, say for example, the All India Institute of Ayurveda. So there actually you can see that the integrative approach is there, the integrative cancer center is there, where the patient they are taking the cancer treatment, their patient they are also taking the Ayurveda treatment. The another way of integration is giving the Ayurvedic medicines, but at the same time to substantiate your diagnosis with the help of the various diagnostic tools that which are available, and that is being routinely done in many of the hospitals. You can see that the patient they also do the X-ray, they also do the lab test, and then they take the medicines, and then they can see that whether their sugar is going down or up. So that is also part of integration. Even it is possible that even in the intensive care also, it is possible that the Ayurveda can provide lot of support to those patients, those who are on the higher antibiotics or some other kind of things, where actually the sometimes the antibiotic they are not tolerable to the patient. So you can make them tolerable. The cancer is the most important factor, where even the NCI USA is also looking for, and that's why there is a lot of acceptance for the integration of Ayurveda with the cancer treatment. So lot of integration is happening and the more and more actually the people they will be more aware. At the same time the integration will happen. The integration could be at different stages, whether it is at the more tertiary care level hospital or whether it is at the primary care center level. So there is vast difference into it, and depending upon that the modalities they will be different.
Got it.
But then the integration is the way forward, and that's why the Ministry of Ayush and the Ministry of Health joined it together with the lead taken by the Niti Aayog. So we have developed a base policy, you can say, or the draft policy for the integrative medicine, and now it is more under into the discussion and the further the process for making it actually applicable to the country.
So so what I understand is Ayurveda is a very inclusive
Absolutely.
approach, right? Now, when we talk of inclusivity, and you had mentioned, again, I'm going back to what you said, that each body is different, and now modern medicine is working very closely with the genomics and the genomic studies. How is Ayurveda accepting genomics as a science to create the personal medication for patients?
Ayurveda has accepted genomics as a science, basically as a tool to validate the Prakriti concept of the Ayurveda. But if you say about the validation of the medicines, probably genomics is not the only way, because even in the modern science also, it is not only genomics. Genomics is one part of it, but genomics is there. The proteomics is another one. The other different other parts are there also there. And these various methods, so these various methods they should be actually applied all together to further substantiate the claim of Ayurveda regarding their safety and efficacy, and we accept this for the purpose of research.
Right. So how are you regulating the practitioners? Because when you see, there have been cases reported where Ayurveda practitioners had mixed some steroids, medicines, etc., and then made them available. So how can we, as the policymakers, create a regulation to curb these kind of incidences?
First of all, this is a general blame which is actually being given, that the Ayurveda doctor they mix the steroids and they give it to the patients. Let me see at least some kind of 10 cases which have proven that these are the Vaidyas and they said that this is the Ayurvedic medicine, there is a steroid. So those actually who blame that, they have not substantiated that we have the evidences of that. I would say that there are many medicinal plants which have the steroidal phytoconstituents.
Right.
So like the steroid, they are produced in the human body. Similarly, there are certain kind of steroidal contents which are created in the plant body as well. So there is a difference between what is actually adulterated and what is the inbuilt.
Right.
But those which are there in the medicinal plant, they are very minute quantity, and you can actually easily assess that whether it is particularly actually adulterated or it is the original one.
Natural steroid.
Yeah, natural one. So that is one part of it. So those actually who think that if all the Vaidyas they actually mix the steroids and because of that they are success. So it is absolutely a myth. It is unnecessary blame game. This I would like to definitely mention and put on the record here. The second thing is that not all the diseases they can be cured with the steroids. Because had it been so, why do you require so many other kind of medicines?
Right.
Simply give the steroids and get cured. So that is also, it can't be justified.
Right.
Now coming to the point that you said that regarding the regulation, so the NCISM is the body, that is the National Commission for the Indian System of Medicine, which is constituted under the Act 2020, and before that it was Indian Medicine Central Council Act 1970. So past, there is a history of last 52 years for the Act, and even before that there were the Act of the particular the states. So various states, they had their boards and they had their act, and under those act, they maintain the register of the practitioners. They have to actually pass the examination. So now also under this act, the person who has passed the examination, BAMS, Bachelor of Ayurvedic Medicine and Surgery. So after passing the examination and after completing the compulsory internship, so after that only they are enrolled in the register, and then only they become the qualified registered medical practitioner. So this is the mechanism which is actually set. So at the same time, like the central body is there, so at the same time at every state level there is a state board of the Ayurveda, or the state board of the Ayurveda and Unani, or depending if it is Tamil Nadu, the state board of Siddha and Ayurveda. So these different state boards are there, and these state boards, they maintain the register and they have the power to regulate the practices of the practitioners, and the government is taking the steps from time to time, whether to because there is a regulation for the ethical practices. So the ethical practices, they have to be maintained by the practitioners.
Right. So you spoke about education. For Ayurveda to grow to the next level, I think we need more Ayurveda practitioners. I think we are lacking in terms of the need that is there versus how many Ayurveda practitioners we are producing. So what is the government's view on how we can increase the number of Ayurveda practitioners that we as a country can produce?
I don't actually think that the practitioners number is limited. We have, if we talk only about the Ayurveda practitioners, there are about 4.5 lakh Ayurveda practitioners, that is 450,000, 450,000 Ayurveda practitioners. So they are already there, and that is a quite large number of the this Ayurveda qualified practitioners, they are there. And not only the education, but at the same time we are also doing the capacity building, because every time there is knowledge is actually increasing and you have to do the capacity building, you have to advance your knowledge as the days are increasing. So government is also conducting the various CME, that is the continuous medical education program. So under that, the capacity building of the academicians, those who are in the teaching colleges, the capacity building of the medical officers, those who are already in the government service. So this is being actually going on. At the same time, the National Ayush Mission is a program, and under National Ayush Mission also there is provision to do the capacity building of those doctors, those who are already in the government service. And even for the private practitioners, there is a provision that the various medical associations, they can actually conduct these CME, and we provide the funding to these associations of the practitioners, whether it is the Ayurveda Mahasammelan, or whether it is the Ayurveda Vyaspeeth, or whether there are a number of the associations are there, and we support them to conduct these kind of programs. So this capacity building is also there. And at the same time, we are also providing them the other opportunities. Say for example, if they want to do the research, so we also provide them the funding to the research. If they want to publish their papers in the international conferences, so the government also supports them to go abroad to different conferences and present your paper, present your research over there, and government supports for that as well. So various initiatives that the government has taken to the capacity building of them. At the same time, the government is also focusing on developing the top-notch academic institutes like the All India Institute of Ayurveda. So one All India Institute of Ayurveda, the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he dedicated to the nation in 2017. Now the another All India Institute of Ayurveda at Goa, it is almost ready, and in a very near future it will be dedicated to the nation. So likewise, there is National Institute of the Ayurveda at Mohali. So that is under pipeline. So that will be developed. So government is actually working on the developing the national institutes and the Institute of Teaching and Research in Ayurveda. So this is the institute of national importance that the government of India developed, and 2 years back, the Honorable Prime Minister dedicated this Institute for Teaching and Research as an INI to the nation. This is there in the Jamnagar, the National Institute of Ayurveda at Jaipur. So that is now actually declared as an deemed university. So the government is working on developing the national institute, the deemed universities, the various all India institutes. So the top-notch institutes the government is building. At the same time, we are also supporting the various state governments to develop the institutes in their states.
This global center for Ayush, which is being set up at Jamnagar, and this is with WHO. So, can you tell us a little bit about what is how WHO and Ministry of Ayush is working together, and what is this institute about?
The Ministry of Ayush and the World Health Organization, so we are working very closely for especially past few years. I would say maybe around past 8 years or so. And these 8 years, both these organizations, they have come very close. And because of the various initiatives that taken by the Honorable Prime Minister at the UN level, you know that the IDY, the International Day of Yoga, so it is the initiative taken by the Honorable Prime Minister, and it was adopted by the UN.
Correct.
The second initiative that the Prime Minister took is the suggesting to observe the year 2023 as the millet year, and that was again adopted by the UN. So that is again the initiative of the Honorable Prime Minister. So similarly, the Honorable Prime Minister, he actually suggested to the WHO to have this global center for the traditional medicine in India, and the Prime Minister showed the willingness that the India will support the entire thing. And because of the initiative taken by the Prime Minister, so the WHO has agreed to establish this center in India in Jamnagar, and the ministry and the Prime Minister they decided to establish in Jamnagar, because the Jamnagar Institute is the first institute established in 1956 as the Institute of Postgraduate Teaching and Research in Ayurveda. So that is the Jamnagar Institute and the IIT Kharagpur. So they were established simultaneously in 1956. So that is the legacy that the Jamnagar has, and that's why we thought that probably it is the best place to have this global center for traditional medicine as well. And that's why now the DG WHO, Dr. Tedros, so he actually came personally, and the Honorable Prime Minister was there, the Prime Minister of Mauritius, he was there, and there are the other Prime Minister or the country head of different SAARC countries. So they join online, and during that the groundbreaking ceremony of the GCTM, that is the Global Center for Traditional Medicine, it was done. So it is the initiative of the Government of India, it is the initiative of the Prime Minister, it is the initiative of the Ministry of Ayush, and it is the wholeheartedly, it is accepted by the WHO. That's why this Global Center for Traditional Medicine, it is coming, it is the WHO, and it is the only center in the world which is coming up in India.
Wow. Sir, the industry is looking to grow very fast. And one of the areas which there is a ask from the industry is to boost the export of Ayurveda medicines, Ayurveda products, right? Since you come from a specialization of policies and regulations, how do you think we are going to make this happen? What is on the cards?
I would say that there is a lot of acceptance around the world for the Ayurveda and for the traditional medicine. The WHO has taken the various initiatives. At the same time, the various initiatives that the Government of India as a whole government approach, the Ministry of Ayush and the Honorable Prime Minister has supported wholly. And because of that, the various Indian missions, so they have become very active, and now they are conducting various programs, because to get the acceptance, first of all, there has to be the awareness in the community. So the awareness program, they are being conducted, which are supported by the Ministry of Ayush. At the same time, it is the bilateral dialogue which is very much important. So we are having bilateral meetings with various countries, whether they are the countries in the Europe, whether they are countries on the Latin America, whether they are countries in the SCO or the other Asian regions. So we are having bilateral relations either independently as a part of the Ministry of Ayush and the Ministry of Health of those countries, or as a part of some kind of joint working group which is under the Ministry of Commerce or maybe the Ministry of Pharmaceuticals. So there are different joint working groups are there, and under that joint working groups these bilateral meetings are there, and the various agenda that the Ministry of Ayush thinks that these are the important things to get the acceptance to Ayurveda in the different countries. So we are actually pushing those agendas, whether it is, say for example, the acceptance to the pharmacopoeia, which is very important. We have the Ayurveda Pharmacopoeia of India. Now Ayurveda Pharmacopoeia of India is recognized in most of the Asian countries. It is recognized. It is also referred by the countries like Health Canada. So they are also referring to the Ayurveda Pharmacopoeia of India. So the getting acceptance to the, because pharmacopoeia is the book of the standards. Then we are also working with the ISO India, the International Standards Organization, to develop the standards of the Ayurvedic medicine, so that once the standards they are accepted internationally under the ISO, there will be easy acceptance to the medicine as well. At the same time, we are also in the dialogue with the various regulatory authorities. We are also dialogue, say for example, with the European Union. I said that we have established a technical working group.
Right.
So the technical working group actually works on the various technical aspects about the acceptance of the Ayurveda as a medicine in the Europe. So similarly, we are also engaged with the US FDA. We also had meetings with the US FDA, and US FDA is quite open. We also have recently signed an agreement with the Indonesian Drug Regulatory Authority. So we are having this collaboration with the various drug regulatory authorities, and because of these initiatives in past 7 or 8 years, I would say that many countries, say for example Malaysia, they recognize Ayurveda as a system of medicine in the year 2016. The Colombia has recognized the Ayurveda as a system of medicine. Switzerland has accepted the Ayurveda as a system of medicine. So many countries they have come forward, and they have, the Cuba has recognized Ayurveda as a system of medicine.
Wow.
So whether they are the countries in the near region or whether they are the countries far off, so all of them they are actually recognizing Ayurveda, the strengths of Ayurveda, and they are recognizing Ayurveda system of medicine. And also the Indian missions and the Government of India and the Ministry of Commerce. So we are helping the industry to register their products in abroad, either as a medicine or as a food supplement. So in both the ways, the industry we are supporting to the industry, and we are promoting the export.
That's a lot of effort that the government is making, but it can't be a one-way street. You can't do it alone. Like the industry, the expectation that they have from the government, what is your expectation as government from the industry players?
We expect that the industry, they should be very vigilant with the various developments and the various opportunities in the world, because there are huge opportunities. We should have the innovative approach into it. What actually we had been preparing for thousands of years, the same cannot be today. So there has to be an innovative approach. There could be a lot of opportunities. I would like to give one example. There is a pharma company in Croatia, and this pharma company in Croatia, they have actually brought in one saline water, which is as a part of the nasal washing, and this nasal washing is explained in the yoga as the Jalaneti.
Jalniti.
But they have taken the lead, and now there is a growing market. So in every simple thing which we think that this is very simple, but that there is a lot of market into it. So we have to put in little science into it, make it packaging, and then promote it. So this is actually what is required, and there is a lot of scope is there, whether it is in the food, whether they are in the various other applications, whether they are the diagnostic tools, whether they are the products, whether they are the medicines. So this is the total actually the arena of the various initiatives that is very required, that actually we can give to the world. We can have our export, and the industry has to be geared. I would say that industry means only the Ayurveda pharma industry, but when I mean to say that the industry, it is whether it is IT industry, because now the supply chain is one of the important factor, whether it is supply for the manufactured medicines, whether it is the supply for the the herbs, whether it is supply for the intermediate products like the extracts. So all these are there, whether they are the supply of the cosmetics. So all these things are there, or even it is the export of services. So that is also important factor. So you can have the telemedicine and other things. So there is huge area is there, and when I say the industry, it equally includes all these things. And for this, the industry they should gear up. And those who are not even in the Ayurveda sector, but those who are in the allied sector, they might be in the IT, they might be in the diagnostics, they might be in the medical health, they might be in the tourism. So all of them, they have the opportunity and they can come together and they can actually get the benefit of it.
When I listen to you, I think there is so much to be done, both from the perspective of innovation within Ayurveda, and second is integration with technology to make it available, accessible to the world.
Yes.
Right? My last question to you is, going with this year's theme of Har Din Har Ghar Ayurveda, what are the efforts that the government is making to increase the awareness on including Ayurveda as a part of our day-to-day life?
First of all, this theme is very important. Har Din Har Ghar Ayurveda. That is, every home, each day Ayurveda. So this actually has direct link with the earlier the shlok which I said, Nityam Hitahara Vihara Sevi. So how you should stay healthy. So it is directly with that how actually you can be healthy, how you can be fit, how you can have the wellness. So Har Din Har Ghar. So this is the important thing. And for this, we actually promoted this theme for last 6 weeks, and for last 6 weeks, for every 1 week there was a different theme. So we address the children, we address the women, we address the senior citizens. The different actually the population of the community. So they were actually addressed. There were different programs, and then it is the Jan Bhagidari. So it is not only that the Vaidyas or those who are associated with Ayurveda, they should do it, but actually it is the participation of the community, because health is my responsibility.
Right.
My health, my responsibility. So every individual, he should have the participation to ensure that he is healthy, he or she. So this is very important. So Jan Bhagidari is very important, and that's why actually we went beyond the Ayurveda community. So whether they are the students in the filmmaking, whether they are the students in the other part, whether they are the professionals in different sectors, or even whether they are the housewives and those who are in the restaurants and kitchens and everything. So any activity they can do in relation to Ayurveda, whether they can prepare some kind of recipe, and that recipe they can prepare, and then they can put the video on the website. They can do some kind of other activity. It could be some kind of drawing, it could be some kind of dance, it could be so various kind of things. There are a lot of creativity is there, and this creativity that actually you have to make it, and then you have to post it on the Ayurveda website. There is a website that the Ayurveda day is, so there is a specific website, and you can log on to the website. Even simply that I support Ayurveda, so they can simply go on the website and they can click. In last 2 days only, there are more than 40 lakh, that is the 4 million people, they have actually logged on to this website and they have supported to the Ayurveda. So there is a huge number within 2 days.
Wow.
4 million people. So this is a huge response is there, and there are many activities are there. So I would say that the more and more people, they should get actually associated with Ayurveda, not only as a system of medicine, but as a way of life to maintain their health physically, mentally, spiritually. So that's why it is Har Ghar Har Din Ayurveda.
What is your personal message on the World Ayurveda Day?
I would also recommend the same thing, Har Ghar Har Din Ayurveda, because I follow this in my entire life. The moment actually I got admitted in Ayurveda, and the more actually I understood about Ayurveda, and then I thought that this is the actually what actually I was looking for, and this is the way of life. It is much more beyond the system of medicine. It is much more beyond this science, and that actually we should do in every day of our life. And the more and more actually we learn, the more and more actually we recognize the importance of the doing Har Ghar Har Din Ayurveda. So this is actually the theme that I would also suggest that the people they should do. And the people, again I would say that they should actually live to the shloka which earlier I mentioned, Nityam Hitahara Vihara Sevi Samikshakari Visheshu Asaktaha Dataha Samaha Satyaparaha. I always focus on this particular word, Data. We should learn to give.
Ayurveda is beyond the science of medicine. It's a science of life. And the biggest thing that you can do is to consider yourself as a giver, as a contributor, because that's what brings happiness to you. And if you are happy and each one sees happiness in their life, we will have a happy community, we will have a happy nation. With that message, I thank you so much, sir, for taking our time to speak with us. It has been a pleasure speaking to you. It has been knowledgeable to me, and I'm sure our viewers will find it extremely valuable listening to what you just said.
Thank you very much, and I'm really happy that I could get this opportunity to talk to you and through to all your viewers and the people in the community. So I'm really very happy that this media will help to further actually disper the knowledge of Ayurveda to the entire world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.